Welcome back to Making Sense Conversations. I'm Waceke and Nduati. Are you bored with your business? I think I'm going to dedicate this podcast to someone called Rosie. She knows herself, and it's because she was bold enough to ask me that question. So this is what had happened. I'd been on this year-long program on business and learning all sorts of things about the business, how to scale it up, the financing, the things you need to know about a business, thinking on the next level, meeting great people. And we had been divided into groups to deep dive into certain things. And in my groups, I'd always struggle with, I'm trying to focus more on the creation side of the business, but I've got this whole giant to run, and sometimes I don't know how to do it, handling all the obligations. And the same problem kept coming up. I just used different words to describe it. And the problem was I was feeling like I was in prison in some sort of way. Because yes, the business has grown, but the things that I love to do, I'm not finding space to do it, even mentally, leave alone just having the time, mental space to be able to do that. And in our last session, so this would have been late 2018, Rosie asked me in front of the group directly after once again I had gone round and round and round into what my problem was. She's like, Sheke, are you bored with your business? That question hit a nerve because it was one of those things that somebody asks you and the answer is so obvious. I had just not thought about it that way. I could have never allowed myself to think about it that way. I'd never heard of entrepreneurs being bored with your business, but the answer was so clear. Yes. And I teared up after that because do you know when something is so real, so truthful, that it just gets past all the other things you were trying to make it hide behind and gets to the core of the matter, the core of the truth. And that is true. I was bored with the business. So I faced immense relief after acknowledging it because finally I'm exposed. Finally I'm out. Yeah. And immense guilt at the same time. So I had these two emotions that I didn't know what to do with it. And for some of you listening today, I'm going to ask you the way Rosie asked me, are you bored with your business? And let my story just give you comfort. You're allowed to be bored with your business. Now, we didn't start on this entrepreneur journey ever thinking we could be bored of our businesses. And I'm going to go into what I mean by bored, but on face value, we never thought we were allowed to be bored. But if you think about it, other people who work for you, people who are employed get to be bored, and then they get to change something. They get to launch new careers or get promotions and things like that. But entrepreneurs don't. And because, especially if you're the founder of a business, because you birthed it from nothing, you have an intense sense of obligation to the business that sometimes makes us forget we are also human beings who need excitement, who need adventure, who will be bored by routine all the time, who need something different, who need different levels of exposure, because we are so obligated to this and making it work that we never stop to think about ourselves as individuals and what we are actually getting out of it or how we are feeling, whether we are fulfilled, whether we are still passionate. We were passionate in the beginning, and I felt like in the beginning of Centonomy, I had a lot of passion. But along the way, as the work got more structured, more routine, more obligations, more about following the timetable, more about growth, and all these things are necessary, and you do them. I had forgotten what made me start the business in the first place. I was not experiencing what made me start the business in the first place. And so along the way, and I just brushed it off and continued doing what was needed. I'd do it in small bits. I'd write an article here. I'd improve on a class there. But in the beginning, I deep dived into the content. And that's where I was. There was even no clients to think about at that time, but I was deep dive into the content and what needs to be learned. And that was what was fueling me. But as a business grows, sometimes you forget that you still need that fuel. And it may not be the same fuel all the time, but you need something to keep you going. So we get bored. And this boredom can lead to burnout or be combined with burnout. I'm going to cover burnout on a separate episode, but we start getting days and many days where we don't want to get out of bed in the morning. I remember feeling that. I remember getting out of bed one day, dressing up, getting ready to work, walking to my car, opening the door, entering the car, and then just telling myself, I can't do it, because I just went through the list of what was waiting for me on the other side. And there was nothing for me. There were things I needed to do. They were even urgent, but really there were people waiting for me to give them solutions to problems. But really for me, there was nothing waiting for me on the other side. And this particular day, I just could not summon the energy, summon the drive, summon the willpower to move. So I locked my car, went back, got into pajamas, and got back into bed for the next 2 days. And you will find moments of like that as an entrepreneur. And maybe people who are hearing this and are not entrepreneurs, now you know what entrepreneurs go through. Sometimes we are putting up a show, but behind the scenes, we are dying inside. We are dying inside. And there's nobody telling us you're allowed to feel that way. You're allowed to feel tired. You're allowed to feel bored. And the guilt that comes with, how can I be feeling this way? I'm letting so many people down. And this feeling bored has really nothing to do with the business performance. The business could be doing great. My business was doing great, but it didn't remove the fact that as a human being, I also needed something different. So yes, be prepared to get bored with your business. And I'm giving you permission to acknowledge you. If you are bored and this has resonated with you, I'm giving you permission to be bored with your business. And I want you to sit in that acknowledgement, because the most powerful thing that Rosie did is once I said yes, I couldn't run away from it. I couldn't run away from it. Before it had just been bottled up, but now I couldn't run away from it. Now, I said I'm going to describe this bored. It's not the kind of bored of, I'm sitting at home doing nothing and I'm bored. It's not that I didn't love the business. It's not that I had lost vision for the business. It's not that even I had lost passion for the business. It's not that I didn't want the business to succeed. It's not that I didn't get excited and get happy when I see people who are telling me that their financial lives have been transformed or their businesses have been transformed. That's not it. So this boredom did not reduce my commitment to the business. And I think in entrepreneurship, sometimes you've got to realize that feelings are not going to be there. So it is commitment that keeps you going. So I was still committed to the business. But it made me start to separate again Waceke and the business, Waceke and Centonomy, and say, this is what Centonomy needs to do. And I had learned that full year, and there were so many things we needed to do. This is what I need to guide it. But I need to redefine my job in Centonomy, because as a human being, I also need to evolve. But Centonomy still needs this routine, the structures, the classes need to run on schedule, the events need to happen, the things that are consistent and keep the business moving still need to be done. So, aha moment. I have still got vision for the business, so I still have value for the business. I can still guide this business. I'm still committed to the business, but I am not the person to keep the wheels churning. I am not the person to do the routine. I am not the person to do the follow-ups. I am not that person. And for me, that led to succession. For me, that led to appointing a CEO and giving him the mandate to run that side of the business. For me, that's where that answer got me. But whether or not it was the CEO, or whether or not I got a CEO, I would still have had to start thinking. And it was a process. I didn't have the answer immediately, because once you've been in the routine so long, you even lose sight of what it is you truly want to do. Either way, and if you're going through this, either way, you still need to figure out, what do I want to do in this business? What is my new job in the business? And for some people, it ends up their new job is not in the business at all. I will bring people on this podcast who have decided to completely, in a different way of answering this same question, decided to completely let go of the business. So for me, it wasn't that, but it was detaching myself so that I can start figuring out what is the role for Waceke. And I first had to go back to, why was I there? What was it about Centonomy? Yes, it was the impact to people, but what did I like doing? And for me, it was always that creativity. It was always that creativity. So once I did that, I had to explore that creativity, and I did it through writing the book. I did it through podcasts such as this and other projects that I've ended up doing of the year. I had to reconnect with that thing that fuels me. So please, 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 please find that thing that fuels you. You have the right to give yourself a new job in that business that you own. And that job will keep evolving. I was talking to someone yesterday, and they're like, it sounds so exciting what they do, because they're always raising funds. So they're saying, I'm in my third round of funding. And it sounds so exciting. But when we had a coffee together, she just told me how bored she is of meeting these investors, how bored she is of being in planes, how bored she is of being taken to cities left, right, and center to sell her business. She's so bored, yet she knows the business needs that. So, and I told her the same thing. It's time. Maybe somebody else can do that, or you can transition somebody else to that, and you go back to the core of what was exciting you about this business. But even that, it won't be the same job exactly. It has evolved. You have evolved. You want to play another role in the business, yeah? So explore that feeling. It doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. You have to figure out what you want to do. And you have to stop doing some things to be able to figure out, because when you're 100%, if you figure out I'm bored and you 100% keep going back to do what you are doing, it won't work. So for me, I stopped for a while. I took time out for a while. Now that I had the CEO, I could take time out. And it's in that time out, and I made mistakes sometimes that come in, do the wrong thing, but the signs were always there. My emotions always give me the signal if I'm doing the wrong thing. Take time out. So I took time out to think, to reflect, to look at myself, to look at what has happened to me. I took time to experiment. And there's a very important tool I was given, and it was simply a list. Write what you want to start doing, and then look at it and say, in order to do that, what do I have to stop doing? So it's a start and a stop list. Start doing, stop doing. So if you just write that down today, it will really, 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 really help you. And I said, for me, this ended up in a transition journey. But again, I think entrepreneurs, please acknowledge that there are seasons in the business. There are seasons when you're thriving on that routine, when you're setting it up and you're creating the seasons you're thriving on that. And then there are seasons that will come that will not excite you anymore. And there are businesses that have failed or would not have failed if this had been acknowledged, so that they can hand it over to the next person as they pursue what they are really called to be doing or feel they should be doing, or do what is actually fueling them. So please understand there are seasons. Give yourself a lot of grace. So if you are bored in the business, welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. It is okay. And if you are bored but still committed to the business, it is okay. If you are bored but still love the business, it is okay. If you are bored but still have a vision for the business and want to see that vision through, it is okay. Like me, I love Centonomy, but it just meant the role I will play in Centonomy and how I will play it is different. But it also meant that I also start seeing myself as Waceke, not just as Waceke of Centonomy. So that's when these other projects like the book came up. So please, it is okay. Answer that question truthfully and start doing what you need to do for yourself. And I hope today I have released some people. Let's start having honest conversations of what entrepreneurs go through. I will see you next time. Goodbye.